I don't want to say more. Karibu sana. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew Mugo, for such a wonderful introduction, and congratulations on the good work you're doing in Royal Mentorship Program, where you're mentoring youth because they're leaders of today, not just leaders of tomorrow. Leadership begins from today. And these sessions you're having, they're enhancing what we call personal leadership, because always leadership begins with you. If you can't lead yourself, then you don't have a chance in leading others. As you've heard, my name is Otumbo Vincent. I love being called Otumbo than Vincent. I am the co-founder of SubSkills Limited. We are experts on personal development, leadership, and business consultancy. All right. So today we are discussing the theme self-awareness, and the key topic being, which village do you come from? The reason why I chose the term which village you come from, it's because all of us are Africans. And in Africa, we come from a certain village. We are born from a certain village. And as always, it is important to know which village you come from. And if you take it very keenly from the old age, if you don't understand the village you come from and the relationship in terms of the generation, you might be living in the urban areas and you find that you are dating your neighbor or you're dating your cousin because you don't understand your roots. So it is important for us to understand the village we come from. But in this perspective today, we are going to look at which village you come from in terms of self-awareness. To begin with, I would like to say that it is important to know where you're going before you ask for direction. It is important to know your destination before you ask for direction. As you can see, another thing very important, before you find direction for your life, it is important to examine your life. For Socrates says that the unexamined life is not worth living. Another quote which I found very intriguing in self-awareness is that I think self-awareness is probably the most important thing towards being a champion. This is by Billie Jean King. Everyone wants to be a champion, but not everyone wants to pay the price of being a champion. And the price of being a champion is self-awareness. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's session, self-awareness. Which village do you come from? Self-awareness, in the simplest definition, self-awareness is how you see yourself. Not how people see you, but how you see yourself. So how you see yourself equals your self-awareness. When you look at the mirror, how do you see yourself? And today, as we look on how we see yourself, it is important to note two things. That in life, most of the time, we don't see things the way they are. We see things as we are, which means if you don't know who you are, then you are seeing things with biasness. And that is why we are always having like a horn in front of our face. You are meeting someone new, but because of your biasness, because of your prejudice, and because of your judgment or beliefs, you are not able to have and find a common ground and have a conversation that can transform both of you. Why? Because you do not understand who you are. Because if you do not understand who you are, then it means you might be seeing things wrongly. For self-awareness is understanding how you see yourself. Now, which village do you come from? Is the greatest question for this evening. Is it the blue village? Is it the red village? Is it the green village? Is it the yellow village? as you can see on the board, we only have 4 villages. And the question is, which village do you come from? Now, before we dive into the understanding the 4 types of villages that I've displayed, let us discuss a few things. There are 3 things which are very important in human's life. Number 1 is, how do you collect information? Number 2, how do you make decisions? And number 3, how do you respond to situations? These are the things we face every single day in our lives. The moment we wake up, the moment we sleep, we are collecting information. And then this information, we use it to make decisions. And then in the decisions we make, we respond to situations. 3 things I have said. How do you collect information? How do you make decisions? And number 3, how do you respond to situations? I'll use Matthew as an example. During the day, Matthew, you've visited a lot of places. The first place you visited when you woke up is the ceiling board, if you were sleeping like this. There is some information you picked. You probably went to the washroom. There are things you saw in the washroom. And then you went to the car. You see it every day, but there is something you collected today that was not like every day. Then you went to the office. And then you came to Zoom. Every one of us is every single day collecting information. The question is, are you conscious of your information collection? After that information collection, there is decision making. And after decision making, there is responding to situations. Let us take a little bit of an exercise with ourselves here. I'm going to display an image on the screen. Within 15 seconds, type on the chat what you think about that photo. In 30 seconds, write on the chat what comes into your mind looking at the image below. Matthew and all participants, there are 2 ways people collect information. Okay? The first way people collect information is through sensing. And the second way is through intuition. So Matthew, I'm going to read a response and then you will tell me whether it is sensing or intuition before I explain what intuition is and sensing is. Okay. So Matthew.
Yes.
Jacob says, beautiful sunset. Is that sensing or intuition?
Sensing, I think.
Okay. John says, it's the sky. Is it intuition or sensing?
Again, I will say sensing. I hope I'm right.
Okay. Somebody says, Doreen says, a red sky with people skating.
Wow. Okay. Again, I will give that sensing.
That's sensing. Okay. And then let's get the last one. Let me try to get another one. Okay. Charles says, the beauty of nature and life. Which one is that? Intuition or sensing?
That sounds to be, I mean, I would give it intuition.
We'll give it intuition. All right. Thank you very much for participating. Let's proceed. You see, in life, there are people who collect information through sensing, and there are those who collect information through intuition. In the examples read out, if I may pick a few, Charles, the one who said the beauty of nature and life, sounds of more of intuition, seeing the big picture. While the best example for sensing is Doreen. Doreen said a red sky with people skating, paying attention to detail. Now, the difference between a sensor and an intuitive person is the following. The sensor always uses 5 senses. They are pragmatic, they are hands-on, they are mentally present, and they like taking things step by step. Now, if you are that kind of a person who is mentally present, who goes step by step, when I step into your house and then I say, hey, Matthew, I love the way you've placed your TV, the position of your chairs, that means I collect information through sensing. But when I come to your house and say, wow, what a beautiful house, that indicates to you that I collect information through intuition. So sensors are people who use the 5 senses. They are pragmatic and they are very hands-on. While intuitive people, they add the 6th sense to the 5 senses, which means they are imaginative, they are future focused, and they like taking a leap into future opportunities. In simple terms, they see the whole picture in just tiny details. Now, when we talk of self-awareness, the question is, how do you collect information? It is important to know how you collect information, and that will help you know how your other colleagues or other friends collect information. Now, point number 2, how do you make decisions? If you check on the screen, there are 2 ways of making decisions. The heart represents to people who make decisions, they prefer making decisions from their heart, which means they are feelers. They prefer making decisions from the feeling position. And then on the other side, where we have the brain, shows people who prefer making decisions from their head. So what type of a person are you in terms of what guides your decision making? Do you prefer making decisions from your heart, or do you prefer making decisions from your head? In making decisions from your head, these are people, thinkers. People make decisions from their head. They prefer making decisions from their head, and they are data driven, they are analytical, and they are objective. And people who prefer making decisions from their heart, they make decisions which are emotion driven, which are people focused, and they are subjective. So that's point number 3 in terms of self-awareness. Point number 1 is, how do you collect information, either through sensing or intuition? Point number 2, how do you make decisions? You either make decisions from the head or from your heart. And the difference is, the head people are objective, while the heart people are subjective and emotion driven. The third and last thing about self-awareness is, how do you respond to situations? Now, in responding to situations, we have people who respond to situations in an extroverted manner, and we have people who respond to situations in an introverted manner. So people who respond situations in an introverted manner are people who prefer their inner world. They create energy from the inside. So these are people who will always think, then do, and then think, and then they will do. Because their aim is to always wanting to understand something before they do it. For example, if it's in a company, these are people, if you want their input in your board meetings, you have to send an agenda 3 days before the meeting, because they will want to think, digest the information, and even craft their response. While we have extroverts. So extroverted people are people who prefer the outer world. They create their energy externally. And these people are people who will always do, then think, and then think, and then do again. Their mode of response is to always act even before thinking. They will always act, then they will think about it later. So we have two people here when it comes to responding to situations. We have those people who prefer the inner world, and these are people who will always think and think. They want to understand before they respond to a situation. And we have the extroverted people who will always act, then try to understand the situation later on. So in self-awareness, where are you? And according to the theme of the day, which village do you come from? So ladies and gentlemen, as I had shared earlier, we have 4 types of villages. At the end of this, it is important to know which village you come from. And these villages are based on your behavior. These villages were developed, this is a concept that was developed by Aristotelian early in the early ages of psychology. Now, we have 4 villages in terms, and they are represented with color. We have the yellow village, we have the red village, we have the green village, and we have the blue villages. And these villages are divided into 2 segments. There are those people whose energy can be seen, and there are those people whose energies cannot be seen. In the category of peoples whose energy can be seen, we have the yellow villagers who are referred as to air. And then we have the red villagers who are referred as fire. And in the category of energies that cannot be seen, we have 2 villagers. We have those who are represented by color green, which means earth. And then we have those who are represented by the color blue, which refers to water. Now, when you understand your village, when you are always in your village, you are the best person because that is your comfort zone. But when situations in life happen and stretch you beyond your comfort zone, you don't like it because it is stretching you beyond your comfort zone. So ladies and gentlemen, for what you've been waiting for, here are the villages that I am talking about. Matthew, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, now we have the 4 villages. The first on my left-hand side is the blue village. The blue village refers to people who are reflective, observing, analytical, cautious, formal, and exacting. And then we have the red villagers on my right-hand side. These are people who are focused, decisive, direct, challenging, assertive, and action-oriented. And then on my left, on the lower part, we have the green villagers. These are people who are empathetic, concerned, informal, supportive, patient, and easygoing. And then on my lower right, we have the yellow villagers. They are talkative, expressive, light-hearted, sociable, flamboyant, and enthusiastic. Matthew.
Yes.
After learning about those villages, what do you have to say?
I think I belong to the red village.
Why do you say so?
I'm assertive, I'm action oriented, and yeah, those are called adjectives or whatever they describe me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's start looking at each village at a time, and I will begin with the red village. The red village refers to people who have the red energy. These are people we call as fire. These are people who are highly energetic and action-oriented. They are very positive, straight-talking, and assertive. They are goal-focused and enjoy the challenge of achieving quick results. They are logical, practical thinkers who can sometimes overlook the needs of other people. I'll give you an example. But before I give you an example, let us contrast with the blue village. Now that's the red village. The blue village refers to someone who is referred to like the ocean, the blue or water. These are people who are introspective and reserved. They like to observe others and think before taking action. They are happy in their own company and can give an independent, detached analysis, which can sometimes give the impression of aloofness. Okay? And then the yellow village. The yellow village is air. And this is displayed by people who are outward going. They are sociable and fun-loving. They enjoy the company of other like-minded people and are happy to stand out in a crowd, often enjoying being the center of attention. They are very persuasive, they are charming, and can sometimes overwhelm people with their enthusiastic energy. Last but not least is the green villagers. The green villagers refers to the earth. These are people who are very warm, they're friendly in an understated way, they value close relationships, and will be loyal and supportive to their family and friends. They like to create harmonious atmosphere and prefer consensus to confrontation, which can sometimes make them appear indecisive and laid back. Now, let's look at examples of a workplace. Let's take, most of the time, CEOs tend to be the red villagers. HRs tend to be the green villagers. Accountants tend to be the blue villagers. And salespeople tend to be the yellow villagers. Let's go for a case scenario. A blue villager who is an accountant is given a task to do a summary of the report of the financials for the year. He does a perfect job. He draws graphs and all that, and emails the CEO, who is a red villager. After all that report, the CEO replies with only one word, noted. Are we together? Okay. Hope we are getting the difference there. Now, the CEO has the pressure of ensuring that we don't have a lot of overheads and the accountant is of the same as given the report and all that. The CEO walks down to the HR office, who is represented by the green village. Let me share the villages as I speak. By the green village. The CEO tells the HR, I need to fire 10 people. The HR starts. You know you want to fire Matthew. Matthew has a family. His kids are studying. On what basis do you want to fire this person? Why? Because they are people focused. Okay? So you will realize that the blue villager and the green villager, impromptu board meetings won't work for them. And if you have to make a decision, you have to explain to the green villager how it is going to impact the people. Now, you hold a board meeting and you don't let the guy of the yellow village talk. It will be a mess because they want to be the center of attention. And even when we check off the habits of these villagers, you find there is somebody in the office or in your home. Their room is always scattered, everything all over the place. But when you ask them for something, they will always give you without struggling. But if you were to go and check for something in their office or on their table, you won't find it. If you look at the blue villagers, this is somebody, if you open their desktop, everything is well organized, it's coded. Actually, even if they leave office for a leave, you can work because everything is well organized. How do you identify which village you come from? If you see the red villagers, these are people who love compliments. They love their achievements. When you walk into their office, this is a person who has even a certificate of being a captain in high school. It is displayed, very well displayed and very well framed in the office. They will have a photo of their family in the office, inclusive the green village. Groups of bringing people together. So far, so good. So color describes you, it does not define you. Now I'm able to share. It is a description of who you are, but it does not define you. So the villages you come from. Now, let us go back to the question you've asked. I was born, for example, I am a red villager. Let me use my own example. Matthew, I am a red villager. I was born in the red village. That is my comfort zone. That is where I come from. That is where my definition and character comes from. But you see, life is about movement. You can't grow if you can't keep moving. And when I talk of life is about movement, you can see the picture on your screen. You are born, you crawl, you start walking, and at the end of the day, you will one day become an old man or an old woman. So life is about movement. Whether you don't want to move or not, life will always keep moving. So you are born in one village. Like me, I am a red villager. But the experiences in life, whether you like it or not, they keep pushing you to travel from one village to another village. So even if you are born of one village, you will always have contents of the other villages. And I will share my personal example on the screen for each one of us to see. Even if you are born of one village, you will always have contents of other villages within you. Every moment of one's existence, one is growing into more or retreating into less. This choice will always be yours. Do you want to grow into more or do you want to retreat into less? Now, let me give you an example of myself in terms of village in order to answer the questions and also to respond to any other question that might show up in this conversation. As you can see, this is a profile of myself. This is me on the screen. I am a red villager by 73%. And my next village, whenever I am traveling, is the green village, of which I have 72%. And then my next village after that is the yellow village, where I have 68%. And then the last but not least is the blue village, where I have 46%. And all this, it is because I intentionally started developing and traveling from one village to another village. Let me give you an example of myself. When I was employed as a business development manager, because of my red village, I woke up one day and resigned at 7:30 in the morning without thinking about my expenses, my rent, my dress, and everything. And yet I had one job. Are we together? If I was in the blue village, if I came from the blue village, before I resigned, I would have sat down and asked myself, what are my monthly expenses? How am I going to plan my exit? If I was a blue villager at that time, I could have done what we call strategic exit. I would have planned my exit and say, I'm going to stay here for the next 6 months as I look for another job so that I'm able to cater for my expenses after the job. But because I come from the red village, I just act and then I'll think about it later. Remember? Do, then think.